Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight in to forensically dissect a deeply chilling piece of folklore from Rampur village. We're going to break down the exact mechanics of a cursed urban legend to understand how these terrifying stories are structured, how they evolve over time, and honestly, what they say about the communities that create them.
Just to set the scene for you, imagine this. You're sitting by a fire in a quiet village square. The time is exactly midnight. Suddenly, this horrifying, agonizing scream completely shatters the silence. And this isn't just any cry for help either. It's echoing directly from an abandoned graveyard on the edge of town. From a ruined mansion the locals literally call the House of Death. Instantly, the atmosphere is just suffocating.
So what exactly happens when a village's absolute darkest secret gets unchained? Let's figure it out. We're going to investigate the anatomy of this terrifying lore. We'll look at the tragic monster at its center, the inciting actions of our protagonists, and most importantly, the grim, unyielding price required to survive a curse of this magnitude. And we'll see exactly what that grim price tells us about the really heavy burden of communal guilt.
Part 1. The inciting incident.
You know, every good piece of folklore has that one inciting incident, that specific moment where human curiosity just totally overrides common sense. Our story kicks off on a night swallowed by dark clouds and howling winds. Around a dying fire, two friends make a fateful, honestly terrifying decision: to leave the safety of their village. We follow Ramesh and his terrified friend Suresh as they walk down a pitch-black road, past these dead, twisted trees right toward the cemetery. They're guided by nothing but the weak beams of their flashlights. And as they walk, the tension just builds with this eerie, slow tapping sound. Tap, 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 echoing out in the darkness. And then, when they finally arrive, the heavy iron gates of the graveyard just creak open, completely on their own. From the very center of the graves, a woman's voice starts begging from inside a massive coffin that's wrapped tightly in heavy chains. It is the perfect supernatural trap, hooking right into our protagonist's humanity and drawing them closer and closer to the danger.
Let's see how this builds, because it's wild. Ramesh actually touches the chains and clang! They unlock entirely by themselves. The lid slowly creaks open to reveal pitch darkness, and then we get the horrific reveal: a burned woman's corpse. But she isn't dead. She sits up, black blood literally pouring from her mouth, and she whispers this terrifying promise that tonight, nobody survives.
Part 2. The Legend of Shanti.
Okay, to truly grasp the horror of what's happening here, we absolutely have to pause and look at this monster's history. 20 years ago, the village scapegoated an innocent woman named Shanti. They accused her of black magic just to explain away their own illnesses. And then, they committed the ultimate sin. They locked her in a coffin and buried her alive. So now, at present midnight, that agonizing curse is finally awakening. The village inadvertently created their very own supernatural executioner.
Listen to her dying words. They really highlight what this haunting is actually about. It's not just mindless violence. It is fundamentally about misplaced blame and a chilling 20-year-old promise of absolute revenge. The village's past sins have literally clawed their way back to the surface, which is a stark reminder that buried secrets, yeah, they never stay buried.
Jumping back to the present at the graveyard, we see two totally divergent, very human reactions to pure terror. Suresh completely gives in to the fear. He runs blindly into the dark and is brutally decapitated by Shanti. But Ramesh? He stands frozen in pure terror until the distant ringing of temple bells forces the monster to temporarily retreat. Part 3. Rules of the Sacrifice. Somehow, Ramesh manages to escape to the village temple to seek refuge with an old priest. But, as you know with folklore, there are always rules. Here, the priest reveals the rigid, incredibly terrifying mechanics required to actually stop the curse. It's never as simple as just running away, right? Consulting an ancient black book, the priest outlines a precise 3-step procedure. Step 1. Use a sacred amulet for temporary protection. Step 2. The specific person who opened the box must be the one to close it. And Step 3. The closer must forfeit their own life to seal the curse. It literally demands the ultimate sacrifice. Meanwhile, outside the temple, absolute chaos. All hell is breaking loose. Shanti is just massacring the villagers under a pitch-black sky, raising rotting corpses from the violently cracking ground. It really begs the question, how on earth do you stop an unkillable curse when your village is literally being swallowed by the ground beneath you? Ramesh is facing an impossible dilemma. The devastating answer is that Ramesh actually has to offer himself up.
To save the very village that committed the original horrific sin against Shanti, he has to pay the price for a crime he didn't even commit. It's that classic, tragic hero's burden, and it perfectly illustrates the dark reality of scapegoating. Sometimes the innocent must bleed to wash away the sins of the collective.
Part 4. The final confrontation.
Armed with absolutely nothing but that temporary protective amulet the priest gave him, Ramesh makes his choice. He steps out of the safety of the temple and walks entirely alone into the chaotic, corpse-filled village center to confront the burned woman and end this nightmare. And notice how Shanti's heartbreaking dialogue here perfectly highlights the twisted irony and deep pain driving her vengeance. When Ramesh begs her to take him and spare the village, she just laughs hysterically. Her cruelty is a direct, tragic reflection of the absolute isolation and terror she experienced for 2 whole decades.
This confrontation triggers a massive chase. Shanti goes on the attack, but the sacred amulet flashes brightly, throwing her backward. Ramesh seizes the moment. He sprints back to the graveyard through a violent lightning storm, dodging snapping trees along the way. He absolutely must get back to the coffin to fulfill the priest's strict instructions.
Back at the coffin, it's the final, desperate struggle. Remembering the priest's strict rule that the opener has to be the closer, Ramesh uses all of his remaining strength to shove Shanti back into the box and slam the lid down. But the price is immediate. As black smoke escapes, Shanti's hand bursts through and grabs Ramesh. His skin instantly begins turning black, but he heroically refuses to let go.
Part 5. The New Midnight Legend.
At the exact moment of his sacrifice, a massive bolt of lightning strikes the graveyard, and then just sudden, eerie silence. The roaring wind completely stops, the screams disappear, the immediate slaughter is over. When the terrified villagers finally creep out of hiding and arrive at the graveyard, they find a drastically different scene. The horror is once again contained by those heavy chains, but Ramesh is completely gone. The only evidence he was ever even there are his burned slippers sitting quietly beside the sealed box.
The villagers completely understand that Ramesh sacrificed himself for them. But here's the thing. A curse born of 20 years of pure agony doesn't just vanish cleanly into thin air. The folklore mechanics dictate that all that dark energy has to go somewhere. So it evolves into a brand new, terrifying urban legend for Rampart Village.
The current legend states that today, on every single new moon night, the agonizing screams of a man echo from that exact graveyard, and from inside that heavily chained box, a weak, desperate voice whispers the exact phrase that started this whole nightmare in the first place. "Please, somebody let me out."
This brilliant evolution of the folklore leaves us with a truly chilling final thought to analyze. Did Ramesh actually defeat the monster, or did the rigid mechanics of the sacrifice simply force him to take her place in an endless cycle of trauma? Who is truly trapped inside that coffin now? And who's going to be foolish enough to answer their screams next?